Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for All About Android is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by 99 Designs, the world's largest online graphic design marketplace. 99 Designs connects businesses seeking quality, affordable designs with a community of over 200,000 graphic designers. Visit 99designs.com/AAA to receive a free design consultation. That's 99designs.com/AAA. Hello and welcome to another episode of All About Android, episode 115, recorded on Tuesday, June 25th, 2013. We are yours, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. My mouth isn't working today. I'm Jason Howell.
I'm Gina Trapani.
Hey, Gina. How are you doing today?
Hey. Good. How you doing?
Good. I hope that I can talk more better as the show progresses.
We're missing Ron.
Yeah, exactly. Ron, unfortunately, had to bail last minute. He was extremely apologetic. But, you know, we all have, well, particularly you and Ron have real lives outside of the show. And sometimes that just happens. It takes precedence. So he had to bow out today. Obviously, we understand. And we're stoked that he'll be back next week to, freak out about things.
Yeah, we forgive him.
Yeah. Exactly.
Give him a pass.
But we are very stoked to bring to the show J.R. Raphael, Computer World contributing editor. You've probably seen his stuff on Android Power Blog, also jrstart.com. How's it going?
It is going great. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to bring you on. You've written a lot of really cool articles through Computer World. I also follow a lot in the Android Reddit kind of part of Reddit, and your pieces end up there and generate a lot of discussion in Reddit. I'm sure you already know this, but your pieces are very well thought out, and big fan of your work.
I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of the entire Twit empire, so it's an honor to be here.
Excellent. Welcome to the empire.
Yes.
So we have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about this week. We're going to be talking about Google Play for Education. Samsung had a big announcement. So did Sony. The departure of the Nook, maybe, a little sad trombone there, and so much more. Maybe not sad trombone, maybe taps. I'm not really quite sure. But let's waste no more time. Let's get right into the news.
Apple is showing off its the fragmentation charts. The one that we saw during the WWDC keynote are now showing up in Apple's developer console. And unsurprisingly, they put Android to shame. Most users running iOS devices have the latest version of iOS, and that's absolutely not the case with Android, although Android's numbers have been getting better. We've been tracking those numbers for quite some time here on the show. Mm-hmm. And JR, I'm so glad that you're here on the show today because you wrote a great piece for Computer World basically saying that comparing Apple's version distribution across iOS devices to Android's version distribution across devices is not a fair comparison, that they're two different things. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. Is it too early in the show to get up on a soapbox? Is it too soon for that?
No. Let's dive in.
It's never too early for that.
It's never too early.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a big talking point for Apple and for proponents of Apple about how their upgrades happen very quickly across all devices. And it's true. I mean, of course, when you have one company that's making a small handful, a few devices, they are going to be able to update them more efficiently than when you have dozens of companies making, hundreds, maybe more than hundreds of devices. It's inevitable. But yeah, like you said, there are a few things that tend to get omitted from that discussion. So first of all, you've got the fact that Apple does update many of its devices, but a lot of them don't get all the features. So you look back, let's see, it was iOS 6, iPhone 4 didn't get Siri, it didn't get panoramic photos, it didn't get turn-by-turn navigation, it didn't get those flyover maps. So yes, you can say and put on a nice little chart that it received the upgrade to iOS 6, but when it comes down to it, it's receiving it in parts of it. And, you know, those are pretty much the key features of it that it didn't get.
iOS 6 Lite.
Right.
It's almost like you need a Venn diagram that, you know, looking at that pie chart, of like a lighter shade of green or whatever the color was to signify like how many of them got all of the features versus partial feature.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that's not necessarily to say it's a bad thing. It's a different system. But when you're
totally
presenting it in black and white, you're kind of missing out on those sort of nuances. I mean, with iOS 7 also, let's see, is the iPhone 4 and 4S, they're not getting most of its features. They're not getting AirDrop, the in-camera filters. The iPad 2 isn't getting any filters. And of course, they're all still lacking those basic filters from last year's release. They will get the new look, and there's a lot to be said for that. But when we just say flat out, they got the upgrade, yes and no. So it's a little misleading. I can keep going. There are a couple other points to it.
Yeah, I mean, you made an interesting point, which is that a more fair comparison would be the Nexus devices to Apple's devices, right? Because the Nexus devices are made by Google and they get the updates directly from Google. And that all the other devices, which are, you know, from other carriers and manufacturers, are like a whole other class of device, and it's not really fair to compare them, right? Because all of Apple's iOS devices are manufactured by Apple and issued by Apple. And I hadn't really thought about it that way. I mean, you know, the Nexus devices are a very, very small part of the Android, you know, ecosystem. So if you wanted to go both ways and say, well, if you just compare Nexus to iOS devices, now let's look at the sales charts. You know, suddenly Android goes from, you know, the most used operating system to the least, right? But that was a really interesting point. I had never really thought about that, like that the Nexus devices are really a closer parallel to the iPhone and the iPad because they're issued kind of by Google.
Yeah, well, the first thing you have to remember is that it isn't fragmentation if it's magical. So when you put that out there, it changes the whole conversation. You kind of got to keep that in mind. But no, I mean, exactly what you said. It's you can kind of look at the Nexus devices as being equivalent to Apple's entire, you know, iOS lineup. Those are the devices that are made by the company controlling the operating system. And, you know, within the world of Android, admittedly, Google probably doesn't do the greatest job, as good of a job as it could at marketing this fact. But if you want timely, guaranteed, reliable OS upgrades, you know that what you need to do is get a Nexus device. The difference is within the world of Android, you also have a lot of other choices. Unfortunately, those don't always include timely OS upgrades, in some cases worse than others. But yeah, I mean, that's really somewhere where Google, I think, could do a better job of getting that message out there, because we know this kind of stuff. You talk to an average Joe, just anyone who doesn't follow Android, you know, hardcore, and they have no idea. Most people don't know what Nexus devices are. So yeah, Gina, your point about the sales, very true. It is a small fraction of it, even though it's there.
Yeah, and trying to convince or talk, you know, to the greater number of people who aren't going to necessarily recognize the differences there, that, you know, oh, well, it isn't really fragmentation if you compare it to Nexus. Like, they're just not going to understand the difference there. I hate to say this is not comparing apples to apples or it's comparing apples to oranges, because I feel like that always comes to the case. But it's kind of hard to avoid it in this case, because what Apple offers, you know, is lockdown hardware that limits the user in some ways, but the trade-off is, you know, being able to say by a large degree that they have up-to-date software running on all their devices. Google offers something completely different, unlimited, you know, kind of variation of devices, that trade-off being kind of compatibility between them all. But Google's doing a really good thing in offering these apps as breakout, updatable, you know, individual entities, as they've been doing, and we've talked about plenty of times on the show in the past. We're still, though, kind of in that world where a lot of those updates happen on Ice Cream Sandwich or more, you know, or at least some of them do. So, you know, still there are a great number of users still in the gingerbread world. I feel like once we kind of push this whole gingerbread thing behind us, things will get a little bit better as far as that all is concerned.
It's true.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Gina.
No, you know, it's funny you were saying that Google's do a better job of marketing, that you get upgrades faster, more timely with Nexus devices. But the reality is that users, like regular users, I feel like this problem of fragmentation is amplified within our community, and particularly within the developer community. But like regular users, their priority when they walk into a store to buy a phone isn't like, I'm going to get upgrades faster. You know, that they just want the nicest phone, the cheapest phone, the thing that does what they need to do right then and there. They're not thinking a month down the line, there's going to be a new version of Android out, I'm not going to get it. A lot of people don't even know. A lot of people outside of our community don't realize that, right? But the fragmentation thing is important to developers, which really is important to the, you know, the ecosystem in general. general, because then you have better looking apps. You have apps that do more and that are more modern. And so this is why Apple's obviously putting these charts in the developer page, because they're trying to be a show off and say, hey, when you develop for our platform, you can depend on our users having this particular version. So I don't know if it's the right approach for Google to market the Nexus as the place to get upgrades. I mean, I think in our community understands that, but I don't know how much of a problem it is for regular users.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. It's interesting, though, because even though it isn't a problem, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, most people, I mean, I talk to, my brother, he has an Android phone, and no conception of what version it is. He's more of a typically understands technology, but doesn't care about it in the way that we do and people in the community do. But at the same time, we hear so much, and I'm sure you guys hear as much as I do, from people who bought this phone or that phone and now are so angry that they're not getting the upgrade, which they have a right to be angry, but in a way, you kind of know after a while what you're getting into with certain manufacturers, certain devices. Not to say that they shouldn't be and couldn't be doing a better job, but I don't know. Maybe there's some closely targeted marketing to be done at tech enthusiasts who, in our little community, who maybe need a little refresher on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think the Google edition, which we'll talk about later on, just to tease, is part of that. But we'll talk about that a little later on, the Google edition of the HTC One and the F1.
Yeah, not too far around the corner. But first, so this caught my attention at I.O., Google Play for Education. I thought it was a really cool kind of thing that they teased just maybe a month ago. Google making a promise to bring Android into the fold in education by offering hardware options to educators, Nexus devices to educators for classrooms and stuff, and also enabling developers to take part by offering their apps to what is essentially a heavily manicured storefront. Developers can mark their apps for inclusion starting now, and third-party educators will actually comb through the submissions to allow them into the marketplace, as well as mark them for things like subject, grade level, and other metadata. And it's supposed to officially, the program itself, once it has all this kind of stuff working, it's supposed to end up launching in the U.S. this fall. I just think more education on the Android platform, the better. I realize Android has a lot of things going for it. One of the things that I feel like it's kind of lacking right now, at least on the app front, are really well thought out, really well designed games around education. And I truly hope that developers see this as a big opportunity to create some really cool stuff and get it into a lot of people's hands.
It's a really big, good, feel good opportunity. Education, helping the kids. It's also a really big revenue opportunity, mm-hmm. right? Because school districts can purchase apps in bulk. So you can if you make a great app that's really good and gets approved and that teachers and school districts want, you can get sales, in the hundreds or the thousands in one purchase. Yep. versus individually. So I think this is a fantastic program. I'm really glad that the Play Store is doing this.
Yeah, not to mention, people know schools don't necessarily have a lot of money, and when it comes to equipping classrooms with some form of technology along these lines, I mean, in many cases, Android devices are less expensive than some of their competitors. So I think this means you are going to see a lot more of this in the classroom. It just makes more financial sense. And just as Android fans as we are, we kind of reap the benefits of that as well. So developers, get on it and make some awesome stuff. Submit it to this program. You've got a pretty cool opportunity right in front of you. So
it's interesting too. One of the big things you always hear about why education or other areas go for an Apple product is because it has the curated ecosystem, the safe store. This is an interesting way of establishing that while keeping the whole open, you can upload whatever you want vibe that Android has. It's a curated store within the store. You can have a safety zone for kids, for educators. They know everything's pre-approved. There's I think they said it was a committee of educators that's going to evaluate everything before it goes in. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice little kind of compromise. It's accomplishing something great while still keeping the App Store, the Google Play Store rather, as it is now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cool. And on the other side of things, from classroom to games,
classroom games. Microsoft has supposedly, this is a rumor reported by Nikkei, Microsoft has supposedly reached a deal with Japan's K-Lab to bring first-party Xbox titles to iOS and Android, starting with Age of Empires, excuse me. Other titles would follow, none others named at this point. Possible launch by the end of 2013. And this is Engadget reporting that Nikkei, which is a subscription publication, reported it. So yeah, and Reuters also reporting this as well. This is I'm not much of a gamer, but this is pretty unusual, right? Because I mean, Microsoft usually uses first their own games to sell systems and to kind of say, you know, this is exclusive to the Xbox. So this is kind of a big deal, kind of an interesting deal. It sounds like this is a way, and again, I'm not a gamer, so Jason, I may turn to you for some better analysis, but it seems like this is a way for Microsoft to say, hey, get our games on your small touchscreen handheld devices, because then you'll really want them on your big screen TV with the Xbox.
I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a current gamer, but I've been a gamer.
You've been in past lives.
All I can say, all I can say about this from my own perspective, having once been a gamer, is that there are a lot of really great games. This Age of Empires, I believe, is a 15-year-old or so
it's
game.
really old.
But you know, there are a lot of games that are just kind of languishing in the middle of no man's land that you'll never get unless you're willing to, you know, run an emulator. And, you know, the people that created those, the companies that created those might be long gone. And that's why that'll never happen, because the licensing around that would be so complicated. But, you know, on the other hand, you have this kind of scenario where if it pans out, I think it's a great way to kind of continue making money on these things that at one time, you know, had such a high development cost. They don't have that anymore. All you can do is make more money if you port it. What's weird here, or at least interesting, is Microsoft's decision to, well, if this is true, this is still kind of rumor land, but decision to bring this to iOS and Android. What about Windows Phone, their own platform, if that's the case?
Good point.
Man, both those Windows Phone users are going to be
I
really
know. So we'll see. Who knows? It would be really kind of interesting if they ultimately decided to do this for Android and iOS and not their own platform. But hey, who knows at this point?
Seems like a win-win for everyone. I mean, the idea of porting it out past the single platform, developers make money, Microsoft makes money, users are happy. Who could not want this? Yeah, totally. And it's not like today's phones aren't capable of running games that were on consoles 15 years ago. We see that they can. Actually, Sega's been really doing some cool stuff. They've released most of their Sonic franchise on Android. I own every one of them because I was big into Sonic. Do I play them all the time? No, but I couldn't resist. Like, I saw Sonic was, and it was developed around, this new kind of platform. So it's not just taking it and shoehorning it into Android. They actually gave it some thought as far as how they make it a pleasant experience on this new form factor. And, I pull it out and I play Sonic 1 every once in a while. It was nice to have that opportunity and to not have to run an emulator in order to do it. That it actually works the way any other game on the platform would work. That's
cool. So I didn't realize the Age of Empires was an older game. So it sounds like this is just about like longtime fans, bringing it to their sort of new toys. That the computer that's in their pocket, the game they played years and years ago, like your Sonic experience. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
What's
up, Chad?
I don't mean to cut in, but it seems like this is a test because it is a free-to-play version. That they're going to test this out with an older version of the game, and then see if it has legs, see if they can port it, see if they have the structure behind it, and then maybe they will release other Microsoft-owned titles under it. It is kind of cool that we were at the point where our mobile devices can run the games that my giant PC would run back in the day.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And the Mo in the chat room says, I want Crazy Taxi. Don't worry, Crazy Taxi's coming. Totally off the side because that's a Sega game. But I want it too. And I know that it's coming to Android. So anyways, I love seeing that because there was a time way back when where, like arcade games even, where you were like, oh man, I got to go to the arcade. Chad, by the way, doesn't know what an arcade is.
Oh, come on. They had those in Chuck E. Cheese.
Okay, all right, fine. Maybe you do. But, and now you can have those games in your pocket. It's just kind of crazy. Like, if I could take that and put myself back into, like, the late 80s,
yeah,
early 90s,
yeah.
I'd be outside of
Yeah,
my
I remember going to my
brain
friend's
flipping out.
house to play on his CD-ROM. He
I know.
had CD-ROM. Can you believe it? You can play anything off of that. It's unlimited space. Now you get it on your phone.
Yeah, no, yes, exactly. Now you get it in an email.
Right.
All right, so moving on, we teased it a little bit ago. The Google edition of devices, specifically the HTC One and the Galaxy S4, released tomorrow. We've been talking about this for a while. One thing to note, Russell Hawley, who we've had on previous episodes from Geek.com, he posted on Google Plus earlier this month. So this is a little bit older at this point, but stating the importance of voting with our wallets on this kind of potential trend. Others feel like the majority of people just kind of don't care about these Google edition devices, and that it's probably not going to make much of a splash. JR, once again, you wrote a piece back in May about this exact thing. I'm curious to get your take on it while we have you on the show.
Yeah, well, I definitely think it's a great step because we've all been talking, and many of us in the Android community have been saying for ages that, wow, this is a great phone. If only it had stock Android.
Totally.
So, yeah, it's an awesome step that they're doing that. That said, there's some things about it that just seem a little, I guess you'd say I have some questions about how it'll pan out. It kind of seems like at this point, maybe it's being done, going back to what was said a minute ago, more as of a test, being done more for the companies, for Google to see how it goes. Some of the questions I have, well, the big one is that the point of this, aside from stock Android, is that you get fast upgrades, going back to what we were talking about earlier. It's not completely clear right now how exactly that'll work with these phones, though. It hasn't explicitly been said across the board that Google will provide all upgrades, that it'll happen at the same time Nexus devices will get their upgrades. What's been said is that they'll receive upgrades quickly. And, as we were saying earlier, quickly is a relative term when it comes to Android upgrades. I don't think there's going to be 6 months down the line, but if somebody's getting this and expecting to get an upgrade the day it comes out when the Nexus 4 gets it, we just don't know. No one's really given that directive and assurance yet. They've just been saying it'll get it quickly. And then beyond that, there are just some things about it that are a little odd to me. Yes, the UI itself, the user interface is going to be better, but we're looking at a couple of phones that were made very specifically to run software by these third-party manufacturers. So they have a very non-Nexus-esque button setup with, Samsung's Galaxy S4 in particular, with the physical button, the menu key, which was, of course, deprecated officially after Android 2.3 way back when. So, that's not quite the full Nexus experience. And then there are elements of those phones hardware-wise that the pure Google Android software won't take advantage of. You've got an IR blaster that, is not controlled by Android. You've got a lot of camera features that, the HTC One has this awesome camera. How are the pictures going to compare here without HTC's custom software to control it? So a lot of questions to me. And in a way, I feel like maybe they're trying to be the best of both worlds, but not quite excelling at either. I don't know. I'm curious to see how it plays out. I think it's an awesome idea. I'm just have a lot of questions about how it'll be in the reality.
Yeah, and Gina, you're considering, are you still considering the One Google edition?
I am. In fact, my Galaxy Nexus, the one that I smashed the screen that I showed you guys, it's now officially dead. Like, it just died like a couple of hours ago.
Oh, are you serious?
So I'm putting in my order. I am going to get the HTC One. I'm going to get the Google edition. I think that JR's points are all good ones. I mean, it remains to be seen. We don't really know, but I'm going to be one of the canaries into the coal mine. And I know Leo was saying, oh, this pure Google experience is just, it's a weird fetish. You should, you're not going to get Zoe's. You're not going to get the HTC experience. You're not going to get the HTC software optimizations, which I'm concerned about. Yeah, I'm concerned that the speakers and the camera aren't going to work as well. I don't care as much about the IR blaster. And I get that, but I'm a huge Android fan. I'm an Android developer. Upgrades are important to me for those reasons. It's important to me to use the pure Google experience because Google is kind of the steward of the Android open source project, and using the stock experience, shows me what their sort of best practices are for UI and design, and certain things are work like tethering, and I think that I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it and see how it goes. And it's possible, that it won't run as well. I don't love that the buttons aren't the kind of the Android standard buttons, and I wonder if Google should enforce some sort of like hardware guideline. We'll only issue a Google Edition phone if the buttons are in the right pattern. But look, maybe I'm willing to put up with that. Honestly, I'm getting the One because I think it's a gorgeous phone. I could get a Nexus 4, but I just love the way the One looks, and I'm gonna give it a try. I think that voting with your wallet is a good point. It's a lot of money to drop on a phone when you can walk into a store and get a phone for $99 with contract or whatever. But I think that this is the way for, one way to give users a choice. I wish that the choice, I wish that I could buy the HTC version and uninstall Sense, and disable Sense and, just turn off the stuff that I don't want. Totally. I also wish the HTC would just issue software, like issue its camera app as a Play Store edition, or it's, the speaker software. I mean, that might be in the firmware or not, and not an app. But they're not really going to be motivated to do that unless people show that there's a demand for that. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I don't think that sales on the Google Edition are going to be, through the roof, but it is a gesture toward the sort of power user super Android enthusiast community. And I hope that they show up. I think that some of us will show up. I am. I'm going to put in my order.
The fact that they're doing it at all is pretty great because, like you said, JR, earlier, people have been, at least small minority of people have been asking for this kind of thing. Oh, that's great hardware, but man, I wish it wasn't running Sense. If it was running stock Android, I'd totally get it. So they're kind of putting their money where their mouth is in that regard. It's a test, though. Ultimately, we're going to see how successful of a test it is, because I can't imagine if it makes them any significant chunk. If it doesn't make them any significant chunk of money, why would they be inclined to continue to kind of put up with the headache of porting their device that's heavily, kind of formed around this hardware and their software overlay and turn it into something completely different for that small vocal minority. So we'll see. One thing to note about HTC One is that I believe HTC did say that Google itself was going to provide the software updates, but that's about all we know. And we didn't hear that about the Samsung One or the Samsung S4.
You would assume whatever they do with one, they would do with the other. You would hope at least.
Yeah,
but
I hope so.
It's still this kind of vague wording as to the timing that it'll be quickly. But I think Gina touched on something really interesting, how great it would be, given the fact that this is not a full Nexus experience. You're getting the HTC One with stock Android software. How cool it would be if you could then have the option to, say, load on some of the add-on elements if you wanted to, or to have them there and then be able to disable them. Totally. If we're going full Nexus, then it's a device that's designed to run pure Android software. But when you're talking about a device that is not, or at least was not initially designed to run that software, I don't know. To me, the problem, the downsides to the One and the Galaxy S4 compared to a Nexus 4, that it really came down to the user interface. And here we're solving the user interface, but then you're also taking out a lot of other stuff. It's like a halfway. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Totally. Mm-hmm. Not sure how you balance that. And solve all issues. Maybe they come out with a phone that dual boots into. that's like so nerdy, right? That's like an even smaller subset of the people that want to do this kind of thing would even understand like why they would need to do that or want to do that. Otherwise,
we don't buy that.
Yeah, but otherwise, people would just be incredibly confused by it. No one would buy it based on that. They might not buy it based on that.
I hope that folks, I'm sure this is going to happen, or do a really deep analysis so we know for sure, like, how much is this phone, like, is this phone great because of the HTC firmware and software?
Right.
Or is this phone great because of Android? Because it's not clear, right? It's not clear how much the Beats Audio is software optimized, or the the camera app, the Zoes and highlights and that kind of thing. See, that seems like something HTC could easily package up and offer in the Play Store.
Yeah,
I say this not ever having developed a camera app, but it seems like they should be able to offer it as an app. And I wonder, would it be good for HTC to become known as a trusted name in sort of Android software development? Like as an app maker, kind of in the store, and start doing what Google's been doing with Gmail and Keyboard and Calendar, separating out their apps. I actually think that would be great for them. I mean, if I had a Nexus phone and I downloaded the HTC camera app and it was great and I preferred it over the stock, camera app, I would be much more likely to purchase something HTC related in the future. But my general perception of all these manufacturers is they make crappy software that I can't uninstall. Like that's my feeling about it,
Totally.
So it'd just be a great marketing tactic with power users.
HTC probably wouldn't have a whole lot to lose by trying that at this point, right? They're not doing
Right.
very well. So who knows? We might see something like that at some point.
Someone did I was just glancing in the chat room and someone mentioned, Gina, you were talking about the Beats Audio. And Google did say, which I recall hearing this as well, that the Google Edition 1, or whatever they end up calling it, will have Beats integrated in some way. But I think you have a little less control over what you can do with it. It's just kind of there, perhaps. But it will have some of those optimizations.
Yeah, the hardware is there, but there's a software toggle where you can turn it on and off in the HTC version, but the Google Edition won't have that. So I guess it's just
It's like
always
more.
on. I'm not really sure.
It's more an app as opposed to like embedded in the system,
Right.
essentially, which kind of makes sense on how they have to do this with any of those features that they roll over. So, cool. Well, there you have it. If you happen to be one of the people that picks one of these up and you play around with it for a little bit, email us at aaa@twit.tv. Yeah, that's right. Why did I blank right there suddenly? I got it right. Email us and let us know what you think about it. If it was worth the purchase and kind of what some of the downsides are too. I'd love to hear that. All right, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor for today's episode, 99 Designs. They've been with us, I think, for the past 4 weeks now, and we're just stoked to have them as part of All About Android. 99 Designs actually connects the world with great graphic designers to create fast, affordable graphic designs. And here's how it kind of works. You tell them what you need. Dozens of designers from the 99 Designs community will submit quality designs created just for you. You give the designers your feedback, help them refine their designs, and then you select and pay for your favorite. Now, 99 Designs provides more than 200,000 graphic designers worldwide to help you work on your project, world-class customer support, complimentary design consultations, 100% money-back guarantee, and they have just a ton of categories that you can get designs created around. Logo design if you need a logo, web design for your website, digital marketing collateral, print media, print marketing, apparel design, which we'll get to in a second, mobile app design. You have a great idea for an app, but you just aren't a design person. You can get somebody in the 99 Designs community to help design the kind of visual aspect of your mobile app. It's a perfect use for it. We used here at Twit 99 Designs to help commission Twit logo designs for our next marketing products, and we were just pretty stunned with the results. We got just a ton of submissions, all very different, some sticking close to kind of the logo and kind of the language that we've had, the design language, others completely out of left field and changing it up entirely. This one is a Space Invaders one. I hadn't seen that one before. That's pretty sweet. Just all over the place. And you, as the person kind of putting the project out there, you then have just this sea of options to choose from. We picked one that was just incredible. We ran it as a t-shirt option, and we just sold a ton of them. People have been really, really happy with them. So it was a great use of 99 Designs. So if this sounds like something that you want to get started with, you can do that right now for as low as $199 for your own custom graphic design. Visit 99designs.com/AAA. That'll get you a $99 power pack of services for free. And a power pack actually gives you more designer time, attention. 99 Designs will bold, highlight, and feature your design project in the 99 Designs marketplace. You're going to get nearly twice as many designs as a result of that. Or you can call 800-513-1678. For our Twit listeners, it's designated for you. That's 800-513-1678. And I'll say it slow, 800-513-1678. Or you can just go to 99designs.com/AAA today. Just type that in your web browser. That'll magically take you there. We thank 99 Designs for their support of All About Android and the Twit Network. You guys are great. Keep up the great work. And I hope that you get some awesome designs as a result of it. So let's see here. Lots in the hardware. So let's jump right in. Did I give you the lead on both both sections I did, Gina. Sorry
You
about
did.
that.
That's okay. That's okay. Samsung announcing some interesting new hardware. No, I appreciate this. First, this is at Asia Mobile Expo. First is the Galaxy NX. This is an interchangeable lens camera, which is powered by Android. It's a combination basically of a Galaxy S3 smartphone and the NX20 camera. It's got a 4.8-inch HD touchscreen display, 1.6 gigahertz quad-core processor, Android 422. Features an APS-C class 20.3 megapixel image sensor, 16 gigabyte storage, 2 gigabyte RAM, Wi-Fi, LTE, 1080p video, for 4360 mAh battery, and it's fully compatible with Samsung's interchangeable lenses. So this is the Megillah of interchangeable of Android powered interchangeable lens cameras. And in maybe kind of weirder news, they announced and tell me if I'm pronouncing this correctly, the ATIV Q.
The Ativ. I believe it's Ativ. Yeah.
Thank you, Jason. Yes. The Ativ Q is a Windows laptop and an Android tablet in one. Okay. So this is a 13.3-inch convertible laptop package. It dual boots Windows 8 and Android 422. It's got side sync, which lets you share data between the two OSs. Really huge high-res screen, 3200 by 1800 pixel screen. Intel Core i5 Haswell processor, and an S Pen. This thing is crazy weird.
Yeah, it is.
You can fold it up to act like a tablet. It can act like a laptop. Dual booting Windows 8 and Android.
All right.
Okay, so the top of my list. But,
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, all right, who's getting one? JR, are you getting one of these bad boys?
Yeah, I think I might hold off a little bit. You know what would be nice? I was having this discussion with someone on, I think it was Google Plus the other day when that came out. Wouldn't it be cool if we were to get a dual booting Chrome OS Android computer? That I might be interested in. I don't know. Maybe this is a way to get people to want to buy a Windows 8 system at this point. I don't know. It's very weird. I think Gina put that well.
It's Android powered. Also, some Windows.
Yeah, or we also don't know how much it'll cost, I don't think, do we? That's a big question in my mind.
No,
we didn't get price, I don't believe, on the Ativ Q. We also definitely didn't get price on the Galaxy NX, which, as far as cameras are concerned, cameras running Android, that, like you said, that's the big boy right there. Pretty impressive stuff. But you have to imagine that the camera is going to be, over $1,000, I would imagine. This, I'm not even sure where you.
Yeah, this is floating modes. There's you can use native in tablet mode, laptop mode, stand mode, and a sort of floating mode, according to The Verge.
Interesting.
Back to JR's point, I would love to see dual booting Chrome OS Android on the Pixel. That would be amazing.
Yeah,
that would be very cool. Yeah,
pretty compelling. Would there be any reason for Google to not want to do that? Because there's already a little bit of confusion. There's that recurring when is Android going to get folded into Chrome OS, blah, blah, blah. So people already kind of confuse the two and see the blurred lines. You put them both on the same device. Is that something Google's going to want to do?
They're the ones that put a touchscreen on a laptop. They always said the distinction is the touchscreen and the full keyboard. But you know what? Android devices have full keyboards, and now laptops got a touchscreen. So, hey, I say they brought it onto themselves. I just want to be able to swipe. Bring me to Android, bring me to Chrome OS. I mean, though you could argue that you don't really need Chrome OS because Chrome runs on Android. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a different experience, though.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I use both. I have a Chromebook, a Chrome Pixel sitting here in front of me, is that what you have there, Jason?
That's actually, I've been using it since I received it, and I actually love it. I honestly did not expect to love it as much as I do.
Even obviously the Pixel's awesome. Before that, I've been a Chrome OS user personally for a while, dating back really to the beginning of it on different levels. In the beginning, it was more of a supplementary machine, and I've been using it more and more as it's matured and the hardware's gotten better. But I don't know. I use Chrome OS in a different way. It's like, yes, you do have the Chrome browser on Android, but it's different when you're in a more traditional web browsing experience. When you're really... I don't know. If I'm really working, I find it easier, and it's a personal preference. I find it easier to pull out a Chromebook and really be online in the full Chrome web browser, get into Google Docs, and it just works a little better for my workflow. But to be able to swipe back and forth between the two would be pretty
darn sweet. The more I think about that, the more I'm like, that's kind of what I need on here is the ability to move it over into tablet mode. That would be pretty awesome, actually.
Well, maybe there'll be a story tomorrow that according to the show last night, is going to happen any day now.
I was going to say, wait a minute, JR, what do you know?
We can confirm that there is nothing to confirm.
Right.
So it is funny, though. I mean, Google does bring it on itself a little bit, because every time they say the platforms will remain separate, we're totally comfortable having two platforms, they always tack on something for now. They always leave it so just enough wiggle room that then it keeps the rumor going.
It's true. They did say for now. There was definitely, this is where we are right now. We have two open platforms right now. I noticed that during the keynote a couple of times. I mean, they didn't emphasize it, but it was there. For now.
Right. When someone goes back, let's just say for argument's sake, 2 years later, if they announce this and transcribes it, they can't pull a, hey, gotcha, you said this then, you lied to us. They cover themselves.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just an if. Maybe they don't even know. Maybe they're just covering themselves just in case things change in a year, 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah. So that was Samsung. Samsung likes to throw things against the wall and see what sticks, obviously. Sony also had an announcement of a few different devices. One is kind of the resurgence of something we've talked on the show many times about, definitely more than a year ago, and it had some interesting kind of commentary around it. The Smartwatch 2 was newly announced. It's the quote perfect second screen to your smartphone, though the smartphone is actually not required. It will operate as a watch without it, but if it has it, it syncs things like notifications, has a music player, can take pictures. I think that's trigger pictures off of your phone. I don't think that watch actually has a camera built into it. It can sync up with fitness apps, all that kind of stuff you would expect. It does work with non-Sony phones, in case you were wondering about that. It's a 1.6-inch face at a 220 by 176 resolution. Has NFC pairing this time around. That's different. Water resistant, 3 to 4 days of normal use, says Sony. Excuse me. And it'll fit any standard 24 millimeter wristband. Now, it looks like it's running Android. It's not running a full build of Android, but they've given it kind of some Android stylings. Pricing unknown, on sale around September. Probably important to know that the previous smartwatch was around $150. So somewhere around there. Compelling to anybody, the smartwatch thing?
Yeah, how many people do you guys think are buying these? I always wonder. It's got that cool 007 sort of vibe to it, but then whenever I haven't tried this new one, of course, but every time I've tried one, I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
If I could shoot lasers out of it, I'd buy it, but still waiting.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying the fact that wearable, in air quotes, wearable computing is definitely a big kind of buzzword right now. We're hearing more and more about it. And the things that always come up are watch, which, yeah, you're right. I don't know how many people need a wearable computing watch, but we've heard about it for years, so somebody's got to crack that nut. And then, now, as recently as the last year, Google Glass, of course, is the other side of it. Having Glass and using Glass, I tend to use it every weekend now, by the way, Gina. I don't know how much you use your Glass. I use it on the weekends. It's my weekend. It's party mode with the family.
You don't wear it every day?
It's like out and about with the family, yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't wear it.
You don't put it on first thing in the morning? Huh.
I don't wear it every day because I'm here in the studio most days during the weekdays. I feel weird sitting at my desk for 3 hours staring at a screen with a screen up there. Like, I get all my notifications at other places. I don't need it right there. And there aren't many opportunities for me to have to suddenly take a picture or record video. It just kind of seems out of place. But when I go out on the weekends, I have it. And when I think about the whole wearable computing thing, smartwatch, after my experience with Glass, seems like it doesn't give me exactly what I would hope to get out of wearable computing. I think I've been kind of tainted
maybe we skipped that step a little bit.
Exactly.
With Glass, you got rid of that step that we never really had.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. We'll see how this whole smartwatch thing turns out. Somebody's gonna do it right, though. I'm glad that a few different manufacturers are taking a crack at it. I think actually watches have advantages over glasses, and the glass has advantages over the watch. Totally. I think the watch is probably good for notifications. I would put on a watch every morning. I don't put on glass every morning. I'm kind of like you. I put on glass when I'm going somewhere fun. I'm gonna want to take pictures and video and some things. I'm going to the county fair. Gonna take wear glass. But a watch I would put on every day, and kind of nice to just sort of glance. Oh, I got an email. I got got a text message. Yeah.
But I would certainly miss, the heads up, the head mounted camera of glass. The camera is really, and navigation is the compelling thing. But you're right. Sitting in front of your computer all day wearing glass doesn't make sense, but having a watch on, I would absolutely do.
Yeah, that would make sense in that situation as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully someone will crack that nut sooner or later. It does seem like it's close. It's just no one's quite, I don't know. Something's missing. It needs something to make it compelling. It's just not quite there yet.
Yeah, and everybody wants it to happen because it keeps coming up. Everybody's really curious to see where this ends up. We'll see if Sony has done that. They also announced the Xperia Z Ultra. This is part of the Xperia Z family. We have the the Z, which I believe is like the 4 or 5 inch. I can't remember the exact specs on the screen size on that smartphone. And then you have the Xperia Tablet Z. This sits in the middle. It's a 6.4 inch full HD phablet, as they say. Qualcomm Snapdragon 800, 2.2 gigahertz quad core, 8 megapixel rear-facing camera. Any pencil can be used as a stylus on the screen. So they say it's stylus enabled, but you could use pretty much any pencil for that. And it launches later this year. No pricing or market announced at this time. So they're going for the bigger than a phone, smaller than a tablet thing as well. I don't know. Compelling to either of you? Yeah, that's kind of
not really. I feel like I'm negative about these things. The phablets are a pain in my butt as a developer because they're not one thing or the other thing. So and as a user too, just too big and too small all at once.
I mean,
that's I get the appeal. I know a lot of people like that form. For me, I'm with you, Gina. It's trying to be two things and not really being either for my own needs. I don't know. It's just for me too. It's hard to get too excited personally about Sony stuff because so much of it doesn't come here. And I don't want to have a completely myopic view, but for those of us here in the States, they've yet to really get in here at all. I mean, they have a couple of phones that'll come out on like AT&T here or whatever, but I keep waiting for them to get the one flagship that goes everywhere. I mean, they make some good hardware. They haven't been able to get into the market and really make a dent here yet.
Mm-hmm.
This one's not coming to the U.S., is it? I mean, at least not officially as of yet.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, well, they didn't say no, no market or pricing. As far as I read, maybe they made a statement outside of that. But so, I don't know. The Xperia Z, I believe, is here. So if it's part of that line, then maybe that would mean that it would. But, not to mention the Note has been doing really well. This is, of course, bigger than the Note, but. So there's precedent to think that it could do okay here. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, but I mean, we literally have every single size now, pretty much between 3.5 and up to 13.3 inches. I think LG had a 13.3 inch tablet, and even larger than that, though. But those are severe anomalies.
I carry a 13-inch tablet in my pocket. That's what I use as my phone.
Oh, okay.
Carry that around.
You're the guy. You're the one that they talk about.
I think that one was at least a tablet. The ones that are pushing it and are still phones are the ones that I find funny. It's picturing somebody holding it up. I mean, the Notes, the upper end, but then you get these big ones where you've got like the giant device on your ear, kind of the shoe phone effect going on, and I like that.
Yeah. I don't mind those. I think just put phones in everything. Sure, why not?
Yeah, why not?
This would be the point of the show where if we had taps or sad trombone, it's okay if you don't. It's probably about time to sound that off.
Play the death knell. Yeah. The death knell for the Nook.
It's kind of sad.
It is a little sad. Barnes & Noble is going to stop manufacturing the Nook in-house due to big losses in the Nook segment. 34% revenue decline.
Oh.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Chad. Dragging down the company. Affected company revenue has brought it down 7.4% last year. So Barnes & Noble is going to create a partnership model for manufacturing tablets, which will be co-branded with third-party manufacturers who have yet to be announced. But its e-ink readers will continue. So kind of sad about the Nook. I don't know. I never had a Nook. Are you guys sad about this? Do we see this coming?
I'm sad about it the way you are in theory. I've never been into e-readers personally. I've never owned one, but I don't know. You remember, I think it was it last month that they announced that they were opening up the Nook ecosystems where you could get into Google Play.
Yes.
Yes.
I wonder if they had done that earlier, if maybe it would have been a different story. I mean, of course, Amazon doesn't do that with its tablets, but Amazon has a pretty big ecosystem of its own, whereas Barnes & Noble, I don't think ever quite was at that level. I wonder if maybe that would have
Yeah,
made a difference.
and I'm not sure if it would have made the difference. I think the Google/Amazon megaphone is way bigger than the Barnes & Noble megaphone around this device. You know what I mean? They could have done a lot of really cool things with this. And, in many ways, the hardware was always comparable, if not a little bit better in the Nook versus the Fire, let's say. But Amazon's Amazon, and they have all of that going for them. And that's a huge monster to go up against when you're someone like Barnes & Noble producing the Nook. So, there's still going to be a Nook of some sort. It's just Barnes & Noble isn't going to be creating it. You had to give them props, though, for trying new things. Their design was always kind of unique and really stood out from the pack and wasn't just another black slab. And so they were trying some things. They certainly tried to differentiate. It just didn't obviously work out for them. So
I'm sorry, go
ahead, Jer. No, go ahead, Jer.
I was just going to say, they really fought hard, too. I don't know how often you guys go into the physical stores, but it seems like every store, I don't know, say a couple, 2-3 years ago, went under a massive remodel. They put a huge Nook station in the middle. You walk in, you kind of get that kind of Kramer with the chicken sign effect. Seinfeld fans out there, where you walk in and it's this bright Nook glare looking at you. You can't miss it. The whole center of the store, the whole store revolves around it. So they tried, but it just, what can you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they had done the Play Store earlier and marketed it more as a tablet,
right?
Then because the Amazon App Store is okay, but it's nothing compared to the Play Store. Right. So I wonder if they could have approached it more and said, hey, this is I don't know, though. It would have been weird for Barnes & Noble to say, hey, here's a cheap tablet with access to all, access to the Play Store. Also, you can read our books on it, I mean, they had to sort of market it as an e-reader because who would go to Barnes & Noble? But yeah, I had that same experience. I went to Barnes & Noble. It was a couple of years ago now. And I was sort of taken aback by how much, as a consumer, you were funneled directly to the Nook area. I still had no interest. I mean, honestly, I've suffered some gadget overload. I stopped using the Kindle too. I just use the Kindle app now on my tablet because I have the tablet. But I think an e-reader, the Fire, like a tablet/reader makes a lot of sense for someone who is sort of a civilian and doesn't maybe need a full tablet, but wants to be able to read books. Oh, and also I can check my email too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Whatever happened to the Kobo? Remember that thing? It was always attached to Borders, which closed, but I know is that still around?
Kobo's still around. I actually just was it the Kobo Arc that I reviewed not too long ago, and it was a decent little reader tablet. But yeah, they're definitely still around and kicking. Absolutely, definitely on the lower, obviously the lower end of the spectrum as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're associated or attached specifically. They might be kind of on their own at this point. And then finally, the Ouya. The Ouya, we've talked about it many times, the Kickstarter funded gaming development system running Android. You can now buy it. It's $100. You can find it on Amazon, Best Buy, GameStop, Target, though Amazon actually is already sold out for the time being. This is all kind of a slap in the face for some of the people who backed the Kickstarter who haven't actually received theirs yet. Founder Julie Uhrman says that they are working overtime to fulfill those orders. That can't feel good, though, to back the Kickstarter and still not have it and have it be available in stores.
A friend of mine backed it and was complaining on Twitter today about the Amazon sellout. And then literally an hour later was like, oh, my Ouya just arrived. Like it just was a weird coincidence. Yeah. So I think they're working hard to get it out. But yeah, that's a little bit of a ouch fulfillment issue, Kickstarter fulfillment issue.
Yeah, that's Kickstarter for you. These things never seem to go 100% well, at least when it comes to product releases. But anyways, if you want a Ouya, go get it. Let us know how you like it. All right, Gina, what we got coming up here?
Oh, we got a voicemail from a developer question. I actually haven't had a chance to listen to this yet, so I'm taking this cold.
I think this is a good one that we can all take cold because I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this.
Okay, good.
Hi, this is Misty, also known as Saintless. I am a developer, but I've never done Android development. From an end user perspective, I am wondering about the feedback when you have a forced close. And I was hoping maybe Gina could talk about that and tell us, what do we need to be putting in there? Do we just go ahead and hit all the defaults, don't put any extra information, and hit send when we have a forced close? Or do we need to try to add some description and tell people what's going on? I don't have any idea what you guys see on the other end of that, so I've always kind of wondered. Thanks.
I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead and take this, Gina, if you have an opinion on it right away.
Sure. Well, I can tell you what
Yeah,
I can tell you what the developer sees. So I've got an app in the Play Store. If I have an app in the Play Store, I can log into the developer console, and in the developer console, I get things like I can see my reviews and statistics. There's a section called crashes and ANR, and ANR is an application not responding. So every time an app crashes on a device that has installed the app from the Play Store, it sends the stack trace, which is just kind of like the error log, the Java error log, back to the Play Store. So I have a list of all the different errors that users have gotten, and I can click on one of those errors and say what was going on here. And there's a user messages area where if someone has typed in a message, I get to see that, which is extremely helpful. So when you get that forced close box, it says okay, and then there's a report button. When you tap that report button and type something into the user message, the developer sees that. Developers that are paying attention to their crashes and ANR list. And the thing for me that's extremely, extremely helpful is to know what you were doing when the force close happened. So I automatically get the device you're using. I can see the device. I can see the version of my app that you're running. And like I said, I get this stack trace, this error log, but I don't always know like what was happening. So I'm actually looking at my crash log here for my to-do list app, and someone says, hey, I was adding a priority to a task and it crashed. I was adding multiple items and I prioritized one and it crashed. That's really, really helpful to me. And actually, not a lot of users add a message, but the ones that do it's extremely helpful, because then as a developer, I need to, kind of reproduce the problem. And the only way I can do that is by doing the thing that you were doing when it happened.
How often do you receive a message like that and you can't trace it down? Like what I wonder is if it crashes for one person, it's not always necessarily going to crash for everybody in the same way. Are there times where you just end up down kind of following a trail that you never find the end to?
The errors that you get, that you very rarely get one crash that's unique to one person. It's usually like I've got a dozen of this one particular kind of error. If it happens for one person, it's happening for several people. Okay. Unless somebody's phone got borked in some way, but that usually doesn't happen. So the point at which I kind of go down a rabbit hole and can't figure out what's making this happen is when I don't have the steps to reproduce, when I'm just not able to reproduce. Because if I can't reproduce it on my end, then I can't fix it on my end, which is why that saying what happened, helps so much. Once in a while, you get, a single person had this one crash that's unique, that's a different, error than every other error. Once in a while. And in those cases, I just assume this person's phone was in a weird state. Something else was going on, and something wrong was going on in the system. That whatever. But for the most part, and you can see, because you get the device information and the version information, you can see, oh, on this particular device, something is going wrong, or in this particular version. Thankfully, that it's usually not hardware specific. For me, my app is a pretty small, kind of weekend project type of app. It's pretty obvious, like, oh, this is the problem. Several people are having it across multiple devices. Right. I'm able to reproduce it, and you roll out a fix, which is really helpful. But yeah, all your users who actually type something into the force close box, I salute you. Thank you. You really are helping to make the app better.
Yeah, no, I bet that's incredibly helpful. And then I wasn't sure when I was listening to her voicemail whether she meant as a user when an app force closes, what kind of feedback the user gets around it. And I don't think there's any way to provide a user with context around a force close. As a developer of an app, right? There's no way to say this is the reason why your app crashed, other than that prompt to send information.
Yeah, this app is unexpectedly stopped, or this app is taking a really long time. Wait, force close. Those are all. That's Android system. That's the Android system going like, whoa, Nelly. And you as an app developer, you don't have any way to customize those boxes. So yeah, I think she was asking what, as an end user, what information should you provide when you tap that report button.
And that's really valuable.
Yeah, you don't have to put in your version or your phone. You get that all. The developer gets all that automatically. Just put in what you were doing. And if you can keep doing it, like if you can reproduce the same problem, doing the same actions, the same set of actions, over and over, and you let the developer know, like that's the reproducible bugs are the easiest to fix.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
Or
Hey,
debug,
I've got
at
a
least.
related question for you, Gina. Have you had a chance with your app? Have you used the developer beta mode that they rolled out at I/O? I'm just curious what your experiences with that, if you've used it yet.
Good question.
Yeah, it's a really good question. An excellent question, very timely one.
I know, very.
Yeah, I just set that up this week. We're actually making a bunch of pretty radical changes to the app in the back end and the front end, and it's stuff that's sort of changing, and it's a big refactoring. So I was worried about rolling it out to all my thousands and thousands of users. So I enabled the beta mode, and it's Google did a really nice job with it. You can tell that Google is a company that's run by engineers. They make really good tools for developers. It was super simple. I uploaded a beta version, and then what you do is you have two choices. You can create a Google group, which is Google's sort of mailing list software, or a Google Plus community, or both. And you say, for the beta version, these are the people who can try the beta version. So for me, I created a Google group, and then I emailed my community. I kind of, I posted something on the blog and let my community know, hey, if you want to try the beta version, opt into this Google group. Know it's a beta. Things are going to change. It's probably going to crash. I need your feedback if things crash. And it went really smoothly. Like 150 people opted into the Google group and downloaded the beta. It's really well done because when you opt into the beta, you get the beta version, you can try it. And then if you're like, hey, you know what, this is too crashy, not good, I want to opt out and revert back to the production version, you can do that. There's just this, very clear UI, just this big green button that says become a tester. And you can say, stop being a tester. So yeah, it's gone really well. And just, shameless self-promotion. If you want to try the beta testing out, you can go to my app's blog. It's blog.todotxt.com, and you'll see the instructions for joining the Google group and trying the beta. And there's alpha mode too, so you can do alphas and betas and production. So it's like 3 channels. It's really nice. It's like the Chrome. It's like the Chrome channels. Well, there's no
cool.
canary.
I didn't realize that about the. Yeah, you could just call it canary yourself.
Yeah, you just call it canary yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't realize that about the multiple channels. That is really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's working pretty well. I've been really digging it. It's nice because you can push out, to your superpower users, you can kind of push out early builds, and then in my crashes and ANRs, list, I can see, oh, this crash is happening on the beta, and particularly since the beta. So these changes must have caused it. So it's a great tool for developers, and a really nice way for users to preview new features and give feedback about them. And also, that's what I was saying earlier about phablets being difficult to develop for. We're actually having this heated discussion. We moved some buttons around in my interface, and somebody with a Note was like, it's really hard when I'm using the Note one-handed to reach this one particular button with my thumb. And I was like, yeah, but that's a phablet screen. Like, that's...
there will
like
always be a point where using it with one hand is
really
difficult.
That's probably your problem in every app, right?
Right.
Like at first you must have big hands if you're using it, one-handed, but also like the majority of users don't have that screen size, and like the action bar in Android is created to like look really good on phones and look really good on tablets, but that phablet screen is sort of, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. One could argue it's not meant to be a one-handed device. I mean, once you reach it, where's the threshold? We could say, I don't know, you could try to pinpoint it, but at some point it's no longer a one-handed device. So what can you do as a developer? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. It's true.
Yeah. I couldn't. I want to use my Nexus 7 one-handed, but
one-handed.
No, it's not going to work. I can't get up to that corner. Try as I might.
That 13-inch one wants to use it one-handed too. The 13-inch Toshiba or whatever it was.
Exactly. I believe one-handed you'd have to like have it strapped to your chest and just use it with your hand like that.
I think that's getting a little X-rated now. We can't.
Oh, dang! I'm sorry. Let's get out of that quickly and move into apps. I didn't mean to take it there. So real quick, just a couple of apps to talk about. Instagram, you may have heard of that, the photo kind of artsy photo sharing social network, just pushed an update last week to add video. And we've talked about Vine in the past, and Vine released on Android, with kind of the push button record video, 6-second limitation. Instagram, I believe, has 15 seconds. My instant automatic thing is like, if I want to do any super short bursts, it's really hard to do with Instagram. I don't know if that's a complaint that I share with other people, but you have to hold it down and wait for a second. See how long it took to like pick up there? Boom. Okay, now it's moving. So I don't know, like after Vine, which seems so automatic and instant, I wanted to see that here too. But anyways, regardless, that's probably not the point. They kind of solve two different things for the most part. They're similar but different. And if you want to record video with your Instagram, you can do that. Up to 15-second clips. You can add filters to them, and all that fun stuff. So
Filters and Instagram?
Yeah, weird, huh? I know. It's this new thing that they're doing.
Fascinating. Yeah, my initial reaction, which I think you guys probably share and a lot of the people who watch this show probably share, was one of filled with snark, like, oh, great, where could you have video on the internet before? This is revolutionary. But then I got a little bit of a reality check on Twitter. I saw several people say that they were having that reaction, and then their 10-year-old son or daughter came in and say, hey, Dad, hey, Mom, did you hear that you can do video on Instagram now? So I don't know. I think maybe we're not the target audience necessarily for it.
Yeah, increasingly as I get older, I realize I'm not the target audience.
Not the target audience. The kids love the gram.
I know,
the kids love the Instagram.
And the Snapchat and all these other things. I'm like, oh, I just don't have time for it. So there you go. Instagram with video. Check it out if that is your thing.
And our second app story, I guess we could kind of play the sad trombone again.
Yeah, sure.
Falcon Pro is having continuing issues with hitting the Twitter token limit for the app. Falcon Pro is a really great third-party Twitter client that keeps running up against Twitter's 100,000 user token limit. So for the second time, I want to make sure I get this right. For the second time, Falcon Pro reached that 100,000 user limit, which is part of Twitter's new terms of service. So the way the developer dealt with it was to just make a whole new set of application keys, push out a new version of the app to the Play Store, and tell everybody to reauthorize. Essentially just saying, hey, you know what? Let's just start again fresh, and the first 100,000 users in can get it. And so it's not clear what happened. At first, Android Police was saying, well, Twitter shut them down because they kept their old keys live, and then they created new keys, and that's a violation of the terms of service. But the Falcon Pro developer said, actually, I pushed out this update, and then I had this huge uptake of tokens overnight, like 30,000, which seemed strange. And also to hit the limit, people would have had to have added over 3.3 accounts per installation. But somehow this developer hit the 100,000 limit again, and he's trying to figure out. He's kind of scrambling to figure out exactly what happened. Did Twitter shut him down? Did he just hit the limit again overnight? But he promises that Falcon Pro won't go away. So trying to figure out what's going on here. Poor Falcon Pro. We were just talking about this last week. Yeah. This whole situation of resetting the keys every time they hit the limit just has always seemed untenable to me.
Yeah.
They're clearly violating the terms of service. Like, Twitter has been very clear that people shouldn't build traditional Twitter clients, which is exactly what Falcon Pro is. I kind of want to pull the Falcon Pro developer aside and be like, dude, just develop for app.net. Like, let it go. I mean, it's a great client, but he's just constantly going to run into these problems.
Yeah, and
it can't end well. It's a damn shame because it is an awesome client, but
it is. Yeah, it is.
There's no situation in which that can end well. I mean, I hope he comes up with something. I used it. I go back and forth between a few different ones, but it's one of my favorites to use. But I just can't envision any circumstance where it'll work out. Like you said, the resetting of the tokens, even if he had been able to keep that going for a while longer, it is a violation, I'm sure, of the terms. It's certainly what they're saying, and it's just not a good user experience either.
Yeah, totally. Now, Chad, you had, and now you have not.
So I heard this story. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and log back in. Falcon Pro is my Twitter client of choice, and nope.
You got in too late.
Got in too late, so now Falcon Pro is no more for me, which is, I mean, I'm sure that I'm the exact type of person that developer would hate to hear this story is, someone who really used Falcon Pro all the time, and now I cannot use it anymore because every time I try to sign in, it says that they've reached their token limit. So yeah, big bummer. This story hurts hard. I went ahead and moved to Carbon for the moment, but yeah, not the same.
It's just not the same.
It's not the same. I don't like that stupid 2-finger swipe up to get to the top of the list. I like hitting the top button and having it go all the way to the top. Anyway, yeah.
Have you tried Plume?
I don't like Plume. Ugh. It's ugly and looks bloated.
Hey!
Sorry.
Who are you calling ugly? Come on.
Sorry, but yeah, I don't like Plume. Unfortunately,
I've been using the official client just because I was sort of like I kind of gave in. The notifications were terrible, but they've just gotten better. They've just started to use the the rich Jelly Bean notifications, which has gotten better.
It's funny that you say that because I have a desire to just not use the official Twitter client because that's what Twitter wants me to do. This is the whole reason is the 100,000 API limit. It's like I'm taking a stand. I will never ever use the Twitter official client ever because of what they're doing, and it really does. Yeah, it really frustrates me as a user, and especially knowing that it's all Twitter's fault and it's not Falcon Pro's fault. And this developer, poor guy. I mean, yeah, Can you imagine spending that much time on an app just to have the beneficiary of your app, Twitter, shut you down? Like, I just cannot imagine what this guy is going through. Big props to him, but
I feel really bad for him. I really feel for him. I wonder how we can make Falcon Pro the poster child for like what happens when terms of service go terribly, terribly wrong. I mean, I feel like Twitter's response to this would be like, hey, we told you to stop making clients 3 years ago.
Yeah, right.
And, part of me was like, thought anybody who continued to make a Twitter client was kind of crazy after that. But I don't know. I feel like we should, maybe the community should just get together and be like, look, Twitter, like this stinks. Falcon Pro is a really good client. Here are all the things that it does that your own client doesn't do, or this is why I prefer it over the other clients. And you're creating bad will amongst power users. I don't know. It might be too late.
The lovely sound of crickets, unfortunately.
Right.
Crickets. Crickets.
What's interesting, speaking of Plume, is Plume one of those exception apps? They've never really been clear on who gets kind of to violate the rule without being said. Because Plume, I'm just looking at the Play Store page now, and it's got 1 to 5 million installs.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't know how many are active, but there are a couple like that, those that have been around for a while. I wonder, because it seems like that has a bigger user base. I'm just guessing based on looking at what data we have than Falcon does. Yet it seems to be doing okay, or at least if there is a problem, we're not hearing about it.
Yeah, I don't know if we've heard officially. Somebody in the chat room, was it Wade County, I believe, said that Plume was grandfathered in. They won't die. I'm not sure where that comes from. Wade, if you have a link, post it in the chat room. I'd love to kind of read up on that because I'm curious. It happens to be my client of choice, but they had been doing it for years, so it's very possible.
Grandfathered in.
Yeah, how that happens?
Yeah, and then if they are grandfathered, is there no limit? Could they keep, like, if they got 200,000 new users in the next 6 months, would they be okay? Twitter's been really quiet about that. Yeah, which I guess is probably by design.
Totally.
Yeah.
We have another voicemail. Awesomely. I love getting the voicemails. 347-SHOW-AAA if you have something that you want to say. It's anonymous, and it's about keeping devices running smoothly. Kind of a follow-up from last week.
On tonight's show, you talked about Android devices getting slow over time. And it's very akin to like when you do a firmware update on your phone or your tablet and it sort of runs kind of crappy, or like your Windows PC over time, after a year or two, you kind of have to, format and just kind of start over again. What I have found is the easiest solution is just do a factory reset. Back everything up, do a factory reset, copy everything back over, fixes everything. Solves almost every janky issue I run into. I know it's a pain in the butt, but, once a year, I just kind of resigned myself to every device that I have, just kind of having to clean the slate a little bit. So I hope that helps for those of you, that are having this particular problem, and keep doing the show. Love it. Bye.
Thank you, Anonymous. It was very... I previewed this voicemail yesterday, and then this morning on a whim, made sure that my titanium backup was current, wiped my device, and started fresh with, which this is kind of related, CyanogenMod's stable official release of 10.1, which they released last night. So they kind of have an official version of 10.1, no more nightlies, no more, release candidates. So I installed this and then did a factory reset and, kind of only pulled back over the apps that I really want on there. That there were a bunch on there that I don't necessarily really use. And yeah, I mean, it was an option that I kind of forgot about because for the longest time, probably for the past 5 months or so, I've been running Cyanogen and reveling in the fact that I wasn't flashing all the time, flashing a new ROM and having to wipe it and reset everything up and everything. So I just wanted to run it just plain as is. And in doing so, my phone is, pretty usable again. So it's totally a good point.
Nice.
Worth reminding is that sometimes you just need to do that. It kind of sucks to do, but I mean, honestly, I did it on a whim this morning while I was getting ready for work, and 45 minutes later, it was back up and running. And I had everything kind of moved over. The ones that I needed from titanium and the basic settings all set up and everything. So,
Jason, I love that you were getting ready for work. Like, I imagine you making a cup of coffee and wiping your phone, like just to
that's
get
exactly
your day
what I
started.
did. Woke up in the morning, kind of check in with the family, pour my cup of coffee. I sat down at the dining room table and totally, that's exactly what I did. So your imagination is spot on.
It's a fine way to start the day. No, he's absolutely right, though. I mean, it's so easy to forget. But anytime someone's saying, "Oh, my device is doing this, it's going slow, it's acting weird," that's always a perfect first step to try. I mean, 9 times out of 10, it seems to do the trick.
Yeah, the temptation that you have to avoid is, I think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, is to just once it's kind of redone, reinstall every single app that you had on it before and everything. Because I do think that the more apps that you install, it just, I don't know. I don't know if there's correlation with it, but that's my gut is the more apps that you install, it seems to kind of slow things down. But when they're all kind of working in the background, doing all these things and, taking up more space. So I don't know. So I tend to, when I kind of do this and wipe everything out, really use that as an opportunity to peel back and say, all right, what are the things I actually use all the time? And then, I might need to do it in another 6 months or another year or whatever, but it's good until then. Hopefully.
Yeah, good reminder, good opportunity to clean house.
Yeah, exactly.
Get rid of some of the old crap you installed and never used.
Totally. All right. What do you say we battle a little bit in the arena?
So many enter, but only one lives. Android Arena.
Wow, last week we had 5 apps in the arena. I kind of knew Silvercar wasn't going to do very well because it was limited to Texas. It got 2% of the vote. I didn't expect that Pocket Tanks was going to win, though. 38% of the votes. That was my game, my pick of the week, Pocket Tanks. Blendoku, a second at 29%.
Second, not so close. Within spitting distance, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. They could see each other,
They could see each other.
Word Kick at 24%, third place. Expedia, fourth place, 7%, and Silvercar at 2% with fifth place. So there we go. So I guess that means, Gina, you are up first this time.
I'm up first. Okay, so my pick this week is called Cloudy, and it's not with a Y, it's with 2 I's. So it's Cloud II. And it's free to try for 5 days, but then you pay what you want, give a donation, pay what you want through in-app purchase. And what this is basically a cloud storage manager. So if you're like me, you've signed up for things like Box.net and SkyDrive and Dropbox, and of course, everyone has Google Drive if you got a Google account. What Cloudy does is it lets you log into all your different cloud accounts, your cloud storage accounts, and you can do multiples too. So if you've got several Google accounts, you can add a few of those, like Jason's showing you right there. And it shows you this is the space that you have available. This is how much space that you've used. And what you can do is you can sync any folder from your phone to any one of those cloud accounts. So I haven't looked at my SkyDrive, for example, in like years, but I've got like 7 gigabytes free. If I wanted to auto sync my photos folder, for example, or my podcast folder from my Android device, you can, I off my SkyDrive account, and then you can set up, I think they call it a link. My phone blew up earlier, so I had configured it on my phone. But yeah, you can, under synchronization, you can set up a link where you link a local folder on your device to a remote cloud folder, and you can set it to sync automatically. You can set it to sync manually when you want. You can set the how often it syncs. So it's a really kind of nice way to manage cloud backup to alternate providers and see kind of all this cloud space, the cloud storage space you have available across various services and various accounts in one place. Pretty straightforward. Pretty nice design. Works really well on the tablet as well as the phone. Yeah, so there, Jason, you just set up a link and you said, okay, sync this folder to my Google Drive, and so often as you want. I guess that was your downloads folder. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it kind of queues up the upload and uploads, when it can. I think you might even be able to set when it uploads. Yes, you can set a PIN code when Cloudy started. So really cool, useful app, particularly if you're like me and you just forget about all these sort of cloud storage accounts that you have set up, and if you want to have sort of redundant backup across a couple of different providers.
That's great. Yes, I feel like this has come up at least on some of the shows that I've done where. And I think it was on Tech News Today, Ayaz saying, anytime a new cloud storage service comes out and they always offer like free storage, he snaps it up because he's like, someday it's going to be easy to, manage my files between all of these things. Don't have it very easily. This is kind of tackling that issue.
Kind of getting there, from Android. So it supports Google Drive, Dropbox, SkyDrive, Box, SugarSync, and OwnCloud. I haven't even heard of OwnCloud. And
you're going to have to rush over there and get some free storage.
Yeah, I know. If you sign up and rush over, it gets some free storage. Exactly. And the developer seems pretty responsive. There's a little button, missing a service. Tell us if there's a new service.
Yeah.
And they'll build in support for those other services. And of course, you authorize your accounts using kind of OAuth. You're not entering your passwords there. You do for the privacy concerned, you do have to give full access to your Dropbox and to your drive. So you have to kind of be comfortable with that in order for it to read and write from it. But I really kind of liked it. I feel like, this is where all my cloud storage is, and I can back this up here and back that up there. And I enjoy being able to, of course, Google offers like instant upload, for example, of all your photos to Google Plus. But if you want to store it someplace other than Google Plus, then you can do that using an app like this.
Cool.
Cloudy.
Awesome. And that's free to try for 5 days. Then
you donate what you want. So after you use it in the trial period for 5 days, there's a little pop-up comes up and it says, hey, you're in the trial period. Why don't you, the trial period is expired. Why don't you buy me a cup of coffee? You can buy me an espresso, which would be like $2.50. A coffee would be $3.80, or a coffee, a latte, which would be like $5. So you kind of donate, pay what you want, and it's through in-app purchase that you pay. So it's not a free app. You do pay eventually, but you get to try it for 5 days for free.
Awesome. All right, cool. So that is Cloudy with 2 eyes. Thank you. JR, you are up next. I will do my very best to show off your app and make people vote for you.
All right. I appreciate it. So the app I chose was Buzz Launcher, which is free to download. It is a third-party launcher replacement along the lines of Nova, Apex, and so forth. What makes this particularly cool is that it makes it easy for you to change your home screen design. Of course, as most Android enthusiasts know, one of the coolest parts about Android is that you can do practically anything with your home screen. You've seen some of these things people do. Folks get really just creative, ambitious designs. And, you've got websites like mycolorscreen.com that are just lots of fun to browse through, and people are generous and share their designs and tips. But for a lot of folks, it's still a lot of work and a lot to kind of take on. So what Buzz Launcher does is it kind of gives you a template to grab someone else's design. Of course, they choose to share it. So when you first load it up, you pick from they've got a few of default themes. This is probably one of them that Jason's got on his phone there.
Default one, yeah.
Yeah, and so they range from simple stuff like this, simple but attractive, to some of the more intricate ones that you've seen out and about. A lot of people have uploaded stuff to this, which makes it cool. It's a very much a community-driven thing. So when you go to load a new theme, let's see. I think there's a little B button that's usually toward the bottom there. If you tap that,
there we go. Okay.
Yeah, so that takes you to their own little inside gallery, and you can pick from many different themes. They've got staff picks, hot, new, category. You find one you like, you can tap it, you apply it, Yeah, and it's something for everyone. It's a lot of those ones that you see out there that you're always like, man, I wish I had the time or could figure out how to do that. I can't follow these instructions, don't want to do it. And what's really interesting about it to me is that it takes you step by step into implementing it on your home screen. So when you get a new theme, it may involve or require a widget or an app that you don't have. So what the launcher does is it puts a little symbol that looks, let's see, it's like a little down arrow wherever there's something that you're missing. And then you tap it. So let's say you need, minimalistic text or the ultimate custom widget, some other third-party app you need to make it work and look the way it needs to. You just tap that. It takes you right to the Play Store to install it. You install it. It activates it. It does all the work for you. So it's really simple.
That's pretty cool. I love it.
Yeah, it's a great concept. It's kind of taking what the community's creativity and putting it in everyone's hands. It is worth mentioning the app is free. You may encounter something within a theme you like that you have to buy to get it to work. It's just depending on what widgets or apps it uses. But the themes themselves, you can grab, you can get them. They're free. You can share your own. And actually, I thought this was a little topical now too. Aside from just being cool in and of itself, the company behind it, the developers, are doing a contest where they're giving out, I want to say, I think it's like 10 grand. Spread out over, the most creative and most downloaded designs on there. So another nice little motivation, I guess, to try to get people to share. But I mean, even outside of that, it's a cool idea and fun to play around with. You can try some different designs, and if you've come up with something cool, you can share it if you're so inclined, and let other folks try out your stuff.
Man, this is great because I see it online all the time. People posting, especially on Google Plus. People are very active on Google Plus, sharing kind of their home screen, and people are so incredibly creative with how they set this stuff up. And I always kind of have it in my mind like, oh, I'm going to spend some time to do this. But when it boils down to it, it takes so much time to get it right and to tweak it, and it's just. Well, it's time that I don't have, number one, but two, it's hard for me to get my brain working in that kind of way. So to be able to see these home screens and then apply them, and it walks you through step by step, that's pretty darn cool. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and on that note, serious props to the people who come up with this stuff. I mean, man, there are some artistic, creative, talented people out there.
How awesome. Okay, so just created the new widget that I just downloaded, and then I can add it to the place. Let's see here, create it. I see, and then you do the setup for it, and then it appears there. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, some of them are a little more involved than others. Some of them are just simple one tab, so you got to install a few things, but
right, awesome,
all pretty manageable.
That's great. That is Buzz Launcher. Two really solid apps. I have to imagine that I have no chance with the one that I picked. I just picked it because I thought it was kind of fun, and there was a time, and there probably will be because I have kids where this will come in very handy. My app is called How to Make Paper Airplanes.
Oh.
And so that's pretty much what it does. You were probably thinking it did something different, but no, that's exactly what it does. All right, so let's see here. Let me take you to the front page of my app. All right, so and I'll ramp down.
This is cool.
Yeah, no, it's really cool because, oh, hold on, my brightness is really high up here.
This needs to go in a Google Play Store for education.
Yes.
This is education right here.
I completely agree. Okay, so you can go into here. Let's see if I can get out to. Okay, so this is where you kind of end up when you first launch the app. There's a few different airplanes. It tells you how many steps you have on each of these and gives you a little picture of them. You can download more, and it totally crashed. Of course.
Write in the report thing and say that you're reviewing it, and then maybe they can reproduce the error.
Or I'll continue my demo. Yeah.
There's got to be a crash in every live demo somewhere.
Believe
it's
me. Yes, it's inevitable in the arena. Arena wouldn't be the arena without a crash. All right, so there we go. We've got just a bunch of them, and I inadvertently just clicked to download the dive bomber here. But you have a few that you're kind of given right off the top here. And I'm trying to find one with only a few steps. I'm not going to build an entire airplane. I do have a piece of paper here if I wanted to. I really wanted to build one before the show, but I completely ran out of time. So you begin, and it walks you through the steps, right? It shows you how to hold the paper, shows you what to do with it, right? I'm going to do this totally quickly, so it's not going to work properly. But all right, so there we go. I got that paper airplane folded, hit the arrow. It takes me to the next spot. What is that? All right, so then we got this. All right, so you get the picture. You build a paper airplane, and it has a bunch of them that you can choose from. There's really not a whole lot to go into detail on this. Is that music coming through? Where was that music coming from?
I don't know. I think it was from the app.
Oh, was it?
That's a nice feature. It plays music while you do the building. I like
Okay.
that.
While you're folding.
I guess it wants you to listen to that song for some reason. All right. So, hey, this isn't going to win in the arena, but it's cool. How to make paper airplanes. You can make a bunch of them, even the ones that you never thought you could make, like the little helicopter that you throw up and it goes and it falls really slowly. Yeah, you can make that one. Okay.
I remember when I was a kid, I think I bought a book for like $30 that taught me how to do this. And this is a free app. Makes anyone's day, especially if maybe you're a babysitter and need something to do. Great time.
Yeah, I mean, all I have to do is show this. Oh, this one right here. Yeah, rotocopter.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, see, you didn't know how to build that before. Now you do. All right.
Now build it. Let's see
Now,
it.
yes, build it and then fly it, and then win. So there you go. How to make paper airplanes. It's free. It's silly. It should totally be in the apps for education section. I completely agree. Hopefully it ends up there. It's actually a pretty well-designed app, good for step-by-step and very easy to use. Totally going to use it with my daughter and build crazy things that fly. So there we go. Cloud E with 2 eyes, Buzz Launcher, and how to make paper airplanes. We're covering the gamut this week. You can vote for your favorite app at AAApoll.com/115. That's AAApoll.com/115. Let us know which is your favorite. Early reports are in, and it's looking pretty close to a 3-way.
Oh, paper airplanes pulling ahead.
No way. Yeah, we'll see where this lands. Get it? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Toss up.
That's the third opportunity for a sad trombone in this episode.
Man, paper airplanes is pulling ahead fast now.
Don't trust the early returns. It all turns around, it seems, as the week progresses. 3 strong apps. So we'll see how this works out. Next week, we have the OG crew. We have Gina, Ron, and Jason. That's me. I don't know why I called myself by my name. But yes, we are. It's 3 of us. It's been a while since it's been the 3 of us. So we're going to have an episode solo. But I am stoked that you were able to join us this week, JR. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, thanks,
It was a lot of
JR.
fun. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'd love to invite you back if you ever want to, spend 2 hours with us again on a Tuesday night. We'd love to have you back.
I'd love to.
This is your opportunity to kind of tell people what you're up to, where people can follow your work. If you're working on anything cool right now, go for it. It's up to you.
Well, I guess I'll just say the biggest upcoming story in the Android world right now would have to be those 2 Google Edition phones we were talking about a little earlier. So they both go on sale tomorrow. I may or may not have more to say on the topic as the week progresses. So stay tuned.
Interesting. Where can people find that? If it so exists.
If it does, which we can neither confirm nor deny. Easiest thing, follow me, Google+. I'm probably most active there. I'm also on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. Head over to jrstart.com. My last name is not spelled the way it sounds, so that's the easiest thing to say. You can find links to all my social media stuff and stories and whatnot there. Hey, there's All About Android logo.
I know that show.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, JR, it's been a pleasure. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll look forward to following your writings as we do on Computer World.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, you bet. All right, Gina, what do you have going on these days?
Not much. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. You can see what I'm working on at my site, ginatrapani.org. I build an open source app called ThinkUp, and I build an Android app called To Do Text. You should check that out. I got a new stable production version coming out soon, the next week or two, with some cool upgrades. I also co-host This Week in Google on the Twit Network, which airs on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific with Leo and Jeff Jarvis. So if you like this show, you'll definitely like Twig too. You should join us tomorrow and watch live and hop into the chat room. Like I said, that's 1 p.m. Pacific tomorrow, This Week in Google. That's about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Gina, as always. Chad, is that?
I swear it's your phone.
It totally is. You want to know why it's throwing me off is because I hear the speaker.
In your ear.
It's yes, and I'm not used to doing that. Sorry, I was obviously about to start making another paper airplane. Chad, what do you have going
Friendly
on?
video switcher back over here. I do a show on 2 shows, one about Minecraft, OMG Craft, and then another one about YouTube, This Week in YouTube. So head on over to twit.tv and check both of those shows out.
Both fine programs on the Twit Network. You can find me at about.me/Jason Howell or Yellow Gold Music. There we go, .com. That is it for this week. Thank you for joining us once again. If you want to get in touch with us and be a part of the show, you can. You can leave us a voicemail at 347-SHOW-AAA, or you can leave us an email. Send us an email at aaa@twit.tv. Or put a link to a video in there, and it becomes a video mail, and we love playing those on the show as well. Find the show on Twitter. We're at Android Show. We're on Google+. Just search for All About Android. We also have a great community there, very active community. Show notes can always be found, of course, at twit.tv/AAA. The full show notes, everything that we talk about is there. Past episodes on the site, as well as iTunes and YouTube. And finally, you can catch us live every Tuesday starting at 5 p.m. Pacific at live.twit.tv. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week on another episode of All About Android after I make this plane.